I found out his secret at our reception and confronted him on the spot. Some secrets are worth keeping. Others will destroy everything you thought you knew about love. Those words keep echoing in my mind as I sit here, 3 months later, still trying to piece together how the most beautiful day of my life became the day I learned that fairy tales don't always have happy endings. My name is Evangeline, and this is the story of how my perfect wedding became a nightmare that nobody, not even I, saw coming. Let me take you back to that morning. October 15th, 2024. The kind of crisp autumn day that makes you believe in magic. I woke up in my childhood bedroom, surrounded by my bridesmaids. My sister Molly, my best friend since college Jessica, and my cousin Rachel. The room was a whirlwind of tulle, hairspray, and nervous laughter. "Evie, you're glowing," Jessica said, carefully applying my mascara while I tried not to blink. "I've never seen you this happy." She was right. I felt like I was floating on air. After 3 years of dating Blake Morrison, we were finally getting married. Blake, with his warm brown eyes, his infectious laugh, and his way of making me feel like the only woman in the world. He worked as a financial advisor at a prestigious firm downtown, and everyone always commented on what a perfect match we were. The successful professional and the elementary school teacher who believed in happily ever after. Our wedding was going to be perfect. We'd spent 18 months planning every detail. The venue was the historic Riverside Manor, with its sweeping gardens and crystal chandeliers. 200 guests, 5-tier cake, a string quartet for the ceremony and a live band for the reception. Everything I'd dreamed of since I was little. As my mother helped me into my dress, a stunning A-line gown with delicate lace sleeves that had belonged to my grandmother, I caught myself in the mirror and barely recognized the radiant woman staring back at me. "Your grandmother would be so proud," Mom whispered, tears in her eyes as she fastened the last button. The ceremony was everything I'd dreamed it would be. Blake looked devastatingly handsome in his navy suit, and when he saw me walking down the aisle on my father's arm, his face lit up with such pure joy that I almost cried right there. His best man, Trevor, stood beside him with a grin, and Blake's family filled the front rows. His parents, his younger sister Chloe, and various aunts, uncles, and cousins I'd grown to love over the past 3 years. "Do you, Blake Morrison, take Evangeline to be your lawfully wedded wife, in sickness and in health, for richer or poorer, for better or worse, till death do you part?" "I do," he said, his voice strong and clear, never breaking eye contact with me. When the pastor pronounced us husband and wife and Blake kissed me, the whole world seemed to stop. This was it. This was my happily ever after. If only I'd known that in less than 4 hours, that same man would be standing in front of me, his face pale with guilt, as I held the evidence of his betrayal in my trembling hands. The cocktail hour was magical. Our guests mingled in the garden while Blake and I took photos with our photographer Laura. She was brilliant. One of those artists who could capture not just images but emotions. Every shot felt like a moment frozen in time. "You two are naturals," Laura said, adjusting her camera settings. "The chemistry between you is incredible. These photos are going to be stunning." Blake pulled me close, his hand on the small of my back, and whispered in my ear, "Have I told you how beautiful you look today, Mrs. Morrison?" Mrs. Morrison. I'd been practicing writing that name for months, and hearing it officially made my heart skip. The reception hall looked like something out of a magazine. Soft white linens, cascading floral arrangements with white roses and eucalyptus, twinkling fairy lights strung across the ceiling. Our wedding planner, Michelle, had outdone herself. "Everything is perfect, Evie," she said, doing one final check of the head table. "Dinner will be served in 30 minutes, and then we'll have your first dance." Blake and I made our grand entrance to thunderous applause. Our families and friends were beaming, phones out, capturing every moment. My heart felt so full I thought it might burst. During dinner, the speeches began. My father went first, sharing embarrassing stories from my childhood that made everyone laugh. Then Blake's father stood up, welcoming me to their family with such warmth that I teared up. Finally, it was time for Trevor's best man speech. Trevor had been Blake's roommate in college and remained his closest friend. He was the type of guy who could make anyone laugh, always the life of the party. But as he stood there with the microphone, something seemed off. He kept glancing at Blake with this strange expression I couldn't quite read. "Blake and I have been through a lot together," Trevor began, his usual confident demeanor seeming forced. "College, post-graduation struggles, career changes, relationships." He paused, taking a long sip of his beer. Blake was watching him intently, and I noticed his jaw was clenched tight. But I've never seen Blake as happy as he is with Evangeline, Trevor continued. She brings out the best in him and... Another pause. Well, sometimes the best thing you can do for someone you care about is help them become the person they're meant to be. It was a sweet speech, but something about Trevor's delivery felt strange, forced, like he was choosing his words very, very carefully. But I pushed the feeling aside. This was my wedding day. Everything was perfect. After the speeches, Blake and I had our first dance to At Last by Etta James. As we swayed together under the twinkling lights, his arms around me, I felt like the luckiest woman alive. I love you, Mrs. Morrison, he whispered against my ear. I love you too, Mr. Morrison. Little did I know that across the room, a conversation was happening that would change everything. It was around 9:30 p.m. when I decided to touch up my makeup. The bathroom in the venue was gorgeous, all marble and gold fixtures. But it was also where brides traditionally went to have their emotional breakdowns, according to the wedding forums I'd obsessed over during planning. I wasn't having a breakdown, though. I was just fixing my lipstick and adjusting my veil, practically glowing with happiness. Through the bathroom door, I could hear the band playing and our guests laughing and dancing. This was everything I'd ever wanted. I was just about to head back out when I heard voices in the hallway outside. Female voices, talking quietly but urgently. I can't believe she doesn't know, one voice said. How has no one told her? Shoo, keep your voice down, another replied. Trevor said Blake is going to come clean after the honeymoon. My hand froze on the door handle. They were talking about me and Blake. I pressed my ear to the door, my heart suddenly racing. 3 months, the first voice continued. 3 months he's been seeing her while engaged to someone else. And poor Evangeline has no idea. The world tilted on its axis. Seeing someone else. That couldn't be right. These women must be confused. Talking about someone else's wedding, someone else's husband. I feel so bad for her, the second voice said. She looks so happy. And meanwhile Blake's been. Don't, the first voice interrupted. Not here. Not tonight. But God, what a mess. I heard their footsteps retreating down the hallway, and I stood there in the bathroom, my reflection staring back at me from the mirror. The glowing, happy bride was gone, replaced by a woman whose world had just shifted off its axis. 3 months. Blake had been seeing someone else for 3 months. During our engagement, while we were planning our wedding, while I was picking out flowers and tasting cakes and dreaming about our future together. My hands were shaking as I opened the bathroom door and peered into the hallway. Me. Whoever those women were, they were gone, melted back into the crowd of our wedding guests. I needed answers. But first I needed evidence. Blake's jacket was hanging on the back of his chair at the head table. He'd taken it off during dinner, complaining about how warm it was getting as more people hit the dance floor. His phone would be in the inside pocket. It always was. Blake was practically attached to that phone. I made my way back to the reception hall, forcing a smile as guests called out congratulations and compliments. The band was playing September by Earth, Wind and Fire, and the dance floor was packed. Blake was in the center of it all, dancing with my little cousin Emma, spinning her around while she giggled. He looked so happy, so innocent, so normal. Was I going crazy? Had I misheard those women in the hallway? Maybe they were talking about someone else's situation, some other wedding drama that had nothing to do with us. But I had to know. I slipped behind the head table and reached into Blake's jacket pocket. His phone was there just as I'd expected. iPhone 14 Pro in a black leather case. The same phone I'd helped him pick out 6 months ago. The same phone that apparently contained secrets I knew nothing about. My hands were trembling as I tried to unlock it. Blake and I knew each other's passcodes. We'd been open about that since early in our relationship. Transparency, he'd called it. Trust. His code was 0815. Our anniversary, August 15th, the day we'd first said, I love you. The phone unlocked. I'm not proud of what I did next. Going through someone's phone is a violation of privacy, and under normal circumstances, I would never do such a thing. But these weren't normal circumstances. Those voices in the hallway had planted a seed of doubt that was growing into a full-blown panic. I opened his text messages, my heart pounding so hard I was sure everyone could hear it over the music. The most recent conversation was with Trevor, from just an hour ago. Trevor. Dude, you need to tell her. Tonight. Blake, after the honeymoon. We talked about this. Trevor. This is so messed up, man. She deserves to know. Blake, I know, okay? I know. But not tonight. Please. Trevor. What about Amanda? She's asking questions. Blake. Amanda understands. She's being patient. Amanda. Who was Amanda? With shaking fingers, I scrolled up through the conversation. Days of messages between Blake and Trevor, talking about someone named Amanda, about the situation, about how I couldn't find out and how they needed to figure things out. But it was when I searched for Amanda in Blake's messages that my world completely collapsed. Hundreds of messages, photos, voice notes, dating back months. Amanda, I miss you. When can I see you again? Blake, soon. Just need to get through the next few weeks. Amanda, I hate this. I hate hiding. Blake, I know, baby. But after the wedding, things will be different. Promise. Baby. He called her baby. I scrolled through more messages, each one like a knife to my chest. Blake. Can't wait to hold you again. Amanda, last night was incredible. Blake. Evie's at her bachelorette party. Come over. The photos made me physically sick. Amanda was beautiful. Long dark hair, bright blue eyes, the kind of effortless beauty that didn't need Instagram filters. And the photos. Intimate photos, photos that should have been between a committed couple. Photos that were taken in Blake's apartment. The same apartment where I'd helped him pack boxes just last week for our move into our new house after the honeymoon. The voice notes were the worst part. Blake's voice, soft and loving, saying words to this Amanda that he'd said to me. Good morning, beautiful. Thinking about you. Can't wait to see you tonight. I love you. Love you. He'd been telling another woman he loved her while planning our wedding. While standing at the altar promising to forsake all others. While dancing with me 20 minutes ago and calling me Mrs. Morrison. There were hotels, restaurant reservations, concert tickets, an entire relationship running parallel to ours, hidden in plain sight. The most recent message was from this morning. Our wedding morning. Amanda, I know today is hard, but remember what we talked about. This doesn't change anything between us. Blake, I love you. After the honeymoon, we'll figure everything out. Amanda, I love you too. Now go marry her so we can get on with our real lives. Go marry her so we can get on with our real lives. I was a placeholder. Convenient cover story. The acceptable choice while he carried on with the woman he actually wanted. The phone slipped from my numb fingers and clattered to the floor. Around me, our wedding reception continued. Our friends and family dancing and laughing, celebrating what they thought was the beginning of our beautiful life together. The band was playing I Want It That Way by the Backstreet Boys, and I could see my sister Molly singing along enthusiastically near the bar. None of them knew. None of them had any idea that the bride had just discovered her new husband had been living a double life for months. I picked up the phone, my decision made. I scrolled through the messages again, screenshotting the most damning ones. Photos, voice notes, the timeline that proved Blake had been with Amanda throughout our entire engagement. Then I stood up, smoothed down my wedding dress, and walked onto the dance floor to find my husband. Blake was still dancing, now with his sister Chloe, both of them laughing at something she'd said. He looked so carefree, so happy, so completely unaware that his world was about to implode. Blake, I called over the music. He turned, his face lighting up when he saw me. Hey, gorgeous. Where did you disappear to? We need to talk. Now. Something in my tone must have registered, because his smile faltered. What's wrong? Not here, I said, grabbing his hand. Somewhere private. I led him off the dance floor, past our guests, toward the venue's library. A small, quiet room where we'd taken some of our engagement photos. Behind us, the party continued, oblivious to the drama that was about to unfold. Evie, what's going on? Blake asked as I closed the library door behind us. You're scaring me. I turned to face him, holding up his phone. Who is Amanda? The color drained from his face so quickly I thought he might faint. What? How did you? Oh. Amanda. He stared at the phone, then at my face, his mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. Evie, I can explain. 3 months, I said, my voice deadly calm. You've been seeing her for 3 months. During our engagement. While we were planning our wedding. While I was picking out the dress I'm wearing right now. It's not. It's complicated. Go marry her so we can get on with our real lives, I quoted, reading from his phone. That's what she said to you this morning. This morning, Blake. On our wedding day. He collapsed into one of the leather armchairs, his head in his hands. Oh God. Oh God, this isn't how you were supposed to find out. Find out. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. So you were planning to tell me. When? On our honeymoon. On our first anniversary. When I was pregnant with your child. After the honeymoon, he whispered. I was going to tell you everything after the honeymoon. Tell me what, exactly? That our entire relationship is a lie. That you're in love with someone else. That you married me as some sort of elaborate cover story. He looked up at me and I could see tears in his eyes. But I felt nothing. No sympathy. No desire to comfort him. The man I'd loved for 3 years was a stranger. It started as a mistake, he began. Amanda works at my firm. She transferred to our office in July and we connected. I tried to fight it, Evie, I really did. You tried to fight it, I repeated flatly. By taking her to the Ritz-Carlton. By telling her you love her. By promising her a future together after you got through the inconvenience of marrying me. I never meant for it to go this far. I thought I could end it before the wedding. I thought I could make it work with you. Make it work with me. The rage was building now, white-hot and dangerous. I'm not a backup plan, Blake. I'm not your consolation prize. That's not. You don't understand. My family loves you. My parents think you're perfect for me. Everyone expects us to get married. The invitations were already sent. The deposits were paid. So you married me for your parents. For the deposits. I was shaking now, fury and heartbreak warring in my chest. What about love? What about the vows you made to me 20 minutes ago? I do love you, he said desperately. Just not the way I love her. And there it was. The truth that shattered what was left of my heart. Get out, I said quietly. Evie, get out. I screamed and he flinched like I'd slapped him. Get out of this room. Get out of this venue. Get out of my life. We can work through this, he pleaded, standing up and reaching for me. Marriage is about commitment, about working through problems. I stepped back before he could touch me. Don't you dare. Don't you dare talk to me about commitment. You've been cheating on me for 3 months. You married me while planning a life with someone else. You made me look like a fool in front of everyone I care about. No one has to know, he said quickly. We can figure this out privately. Go on the honeymoon, talk about it. Are you insane? I stared at him in disbelief. You think I'm going to pretend everything is fine? You think I'm going to smile and pose for photos and act like the happy newlywed while you're texting your girlfriend? She's not my girlfriend. What is she then? Your mistress. Your side piece. Your real love while I'm just the wife. He had no answer for that. I took a deep breath, trying to calm the rage that was threatening to consume me. I'm going back out there. I'm going to tell everyone what you did. And then I'm going home. Evie, please. Alone, I added. I'm going home alone. And tomorrow I'm filing for annulment. His face went white. You can't. We just got married. Fraud, I said simply. Marrying someone under false pretenses is grounds for annulment. And what you did. Lying about your commitment, having an affair during our engagement. That's fraud. I headed for the door, then turned back to face him one last time. Did you ever love me? Really love me? Or was I always just the acceptable choice? He opened his mouth, then closed it, and in that silence I had my answer. Walking back into that reception hall was the hardest thing I've ever done. The party was in full swing. Our friends and family dancing, laughing, celebrating what they thought was the happiest day of my life. The band was playing Don't Stop Believin', and everyone was singing along, drinks in the air. I walked to the front of the room and grabbed the microphone from the band leader. "Excuse me," I said, and my voice carried across the room. "Can I have everyone's attention?" The music stopped. The dancing stopped. 200 faces turned toward me, smiling expectantly, probably thinking I was about to give a sweet thank you speech to our guests. Blake appeared in the doorway of the library, his face pale with panic, but it was too late. "Thank you all for being here tonight to celebrate what I thought was going to be the beginning of my marriage," I began, my voice steady despite the chaos in my chest. "Unfortunately, I've just discovered that my new husband has been having an affair for the past 3 months." The silence that followed was deafening. I could see the shock rippling through the crowd. Mouths dropping open, people looking at each other in confusion, some reaching for their phones. "Blake has been seeing someone named Amanda from his office," I continued, holding up his phone. "Throughout our engagement, while we were planning this wedding, while I was trusting him with my heart and my future." "Evie, stop," Blake called out, finally finding his voice as he rushed toward me. "Don't do this here." "Don't do what?" I turned to face him as he approached. "Tell the truth. Let everyone know what kind of man they're celebrating tonight." The crowd was buzzing now, whispered conversations breaking out as people tried to process what was happening. I could see my parents near the front, my mother's hand over her mouth in shock, my father's face dark with anger. Blake's parents looked mortified. His sister Chloe was crying. "You want to know the best part," I said, turning back to our guests. "Amanda texted him this morning, our wedding morning, telling him to go marry me so they could get on with their real lives." That got a reaction. Gasps, someone said, "Oh my God," and I heard my cousin Rachel shout, "What a bastard," from somewhere near the bar. Blake reached me then, his face desperate. "Please Evie, not like this. We can talk about this privately. Like you talked to me privately about Amanda?" Shot back. "Like you had the decency to break up with me before starting something with someone else? Like you respected me enough to not make me look like an idiot in front of everyone I care about?" Trevor was pushing through the crowd now, his face stricken. When he reached us, he grabbed Blake's arm. "Dude, what the hell? I told you to tell her before this happened. You knew." I turned on Trevor, my anger finding a new target. "You knew about this." "Evie, I'm sorry," I told him. "You knew my fiancé was cheating on me and you said nothing? You stood up there and gave a speech about how happy he was while knowing he was betraying me." Trevor looked like he wanted to disappear. "I told him to come clean. I told him this would happen." "Well, congratulations," I said bitterly. "You were right." The crowd was getting restless now, people starting to leave, others pulling out phones to call rides or text family members who weren't there. The band had packed up their instruments and was quietly exiting through a side door. Our perfect wedding reception was dissolving into chaos. But I wasn't done. "I want everyone to know," I said, raising my voice again, "that this man stood at an altar 2 hours ago and promised to forsake all others. He looked me in the eye and vowed to love, honor and cherish me, all while planning a future with another woman." "Evangeline, that's enough," Blake's father said, stepping forward. He looked mortified but also angry. "This is not the time or place." "When is the time and place?" I demanded. "When was Blake planning to tell me? After our honeymoon? After we bought a house together? After I got pregnant? Or was he just going to keep lying forever?" Blake's mother was crying now, and I almost felt bad. Almost. These people had welcomed me into their family, had celebrated our engagement, had helped plan this wedding. But their son had made a mockery of all of it. I'm sorry, I said, addressing the room one last time. I'm sorry your evening has been ruined. I'm sorry you had to witness this. But I couldn't pretend everything was fine when it's not. I handed the microphone back to the band leader, who looked like he wished he was anywhere else in the world. Then I walked off that dance floor, through the crowd of shocked wedding guests, and out the front doors of the venue. My sister Molly caught up with me in the parking lot. Evie, wait. She was running in her heels, holding up the hem of her bridesmaid dress. Where are you going? Home, I said simply. I'm going home. You can't drive like this. You're upset, you're in shock. I'm fine, I lied. No, you're not. Give me your keys. I looked at my sister, my maid of honor, my closest friend, the person who'd helped me get ready this morning with such joy and excitement. She was looking at me with so much love and concern that I almost broke down right there. Instead, I handed her my keys. Take me home, Molly. Please just take me home. The next few weeks were a blur of lawyers, paperwork, and well-meaning friends who didn't know what to say. The annulment process was surprisingly straightforward. Blake didn't contest it. His lawyer advised him not to, probably because fighting it would only make the details of his affair more public than they already were. Because it had become public. Very public. Someone at the wedding had live-streamed my confrontation, and within 48 hours it was viral. Bride exposes cheating groom at reception had millions of views on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. News outlets picked up the story. I got interview requests from daytime talk shows. I turned them all down and deactivated all my social media accounts. The hardest part was returning the wedding gifts. Hundreds of items from our registry, thoughtfully chosen and given with love by people who'd believed in our future. I spent 3 days packing it all up, writing notes of explanation and apology to send with each return. We regret that Blake and I have decided to end our marriage. Please accept our sincere apologies for any inconvenience. With gratitude for your kindness, Evangeline. I couldn't bring myself to use Morrison anymore. Blake tried to contact me multiple times. Calls, texts, emails, even showing up at my apartment. I'd moved back to the small one-bedroom place I'd kept as a backup, thank God. He wanted to explain, to work things out, to fix things. I blocked his number after the 15th voicemail. My family rallied around me in a way that both broke my heart and put it back together. My parents were furious. My father actually used the word disowned when referring to Blake, which was shocking coming from my mild-mannered dad. My mother alternated between wanting to give that boy a piece of my mind and bringing me homemade soup. Molly basically moved in with me for 2 weeks, sleeping on my couch and making sure I ate actual meals instead of just ice cream and wine. You did the right thing, she told me one evening as we sat watching Netflix in our pajamas. It took incredible courage to do what you did. It didn't feel courageous, I admitted. It felt like my world was ending. Maybe it was, she said gently. But sometimes the world needs to end before a better one can begin. The worst part was the doubt. Late at night, when I was alone with my thoughts, I wondered if I'd overreacted. If I should have handled it privately, given Blake a chance to explain, tried to work through it like he'd suggested. But then I'd remember Amanda's text. Go marry her so we can get on with our real lives. I'd remember the months of lies, the elaborate deception, the way he'd looked me in the eye and promised to forsake all others while planning a future with someone else. And I'd remember that I deserved better. It's been 3 months since the wedding that wasn't really a wedding. 3 months since I discovered that the man I'd planned to spend my life with had been living a double life. 3 months since I blew up my own reception and walked away from everything I thought I wanted. I'm sitting in my apartment now, writing this story, trying to make sense of it all. The sun is streaming through my windows, and I can hear children playing in the courtyard below. Normal sounds of normal life continuing on. I'm not the same person I was 3 months ago. The naive woman who believed in fairy tales and trusted blindly is gone. In her place is someone stronger, more cautious, but also more authentic. I don't smile when I don't mean it anymore. I don't apologize for taking up space. I don't accept less than I deserve. I'm back to teaching, and my students have been the best therapy I could ask for. 8-year-olds don't care about viral wedding videos or marriage drama. They care about whether you remember their loose tooth, whether you like their drawing, whether you'll help them solve the impossible math problem. Miss Carter, one of my students, Jamie, asked me last week, "Why don't you have a husband like Mrs. Peterson?" Mrs. Peterson is the third-grade teacher across the hall who's been happily married for 15 years and has pictures of her family covering her desk. "Because I'm still figuring out what I want," I told him honestly. "My mom says you should never settle for less than you deserve," he said with the wisdom that only children possess. "Your mom is very smart." I've been going to therapy, trying to understand how I missed the signs, how I let myself be so thoroughly deceived. Dr. Martinez, my therapist, says that narcissists and skilled manipulators are experts at compartmentalizing and making their victims feel like they're the crazy ones for questioning inconsistencies. "The fact that you trusted him doesn't make you naive," she told me in our last session. "It makes you human. People in healthy relationships trust each other. The problem wasn't your trust. It was that he wasn't worthy of it." I've learned some things about Blake since the wedding. Amanda wasn't his first affair. She was just the most serious one. His co-worker Marcus, who'd been at our wedding, reached out to me a month later to apologize for not saying anything. Apparently, Blake had a reputation at work for being charming but unreliable in relationships. "I should have said something," Marcus told me over coffee. "But I didn't think it was my place, and honestly, I hoped he was different with you." Amanda left the company shortly after our wedding. Rumor has it that she and Blake lasted about 6 weeks after I filed for annulment. Apparently, the reality of their real life wasn't as exciting as the fantasy they'd built while he was engaged to someone else. I'm not surprised. Relationships built on deception rarely survive in the light of day. Trevor has tried to reach out several times to apologize. I haven't responded. While I understand that he was in an impossible position, the fact remains that he stood up at our wedding and gave a speech celebrating our love while knowing it was built on lies. That's not something I'm ready to forgive yet. Maybe someday. Blake's parents sent me a letter a month after the annulment was finalized. His mother wrote that she was devastated by what their son had done and that they considered me the daughter they'd hoped to gain. She said they understood why I couldn't have a relationship with them anymore but wanted me to know how sorry they were. I cried reading that letter. Not because I regretted my decision, but because I grieved the family I'd lost, the future I'd planned, the version of myself who'd believed in happily ever after. But grief passes. Slowly, painfully, but it passes. I'm dating again. Nothing serious. Just casual coffee dates and dinner with men I meet through friends or dating apps. I'm honest about what happened, about why my last relationship ended, about what I'm looking for now. "That's intense," said David, a teacher I went out with last month, when I told him about the wedding. "Yes," I agreed. "It was. But it taught me some important things about what I will and won't accept in a relationship." He respected that. We went on 3 more dates before deciding we were better as friends, but it was good practice in being authentic from the beginning. I'm different now in relationships. More direct about my needs, quicker to ask questions when something feels off, unwilling to ignore red flags for the sake of keeping peace. Some men have found this intimidating. But I'm not interested in men who are intimidated by honesty and clear communication. My friends joke that I've become harder since the wedding. I prefer to think I've become smarter. If you're still reading this, you might be wondering what the point of this story is. Why I'm sharing the most humiliating moment of my life with strangers on the internet. The truth is, I'm sharing it because I wish someone had shared a story like this with me 3 years ago. I wish I'd read about someone else who'd ignored subtle red flags, who'd trusted blindly, who'd learned the hard way that love isn't always enough if it's not real on both sides. Here's what I wish I'd known. Trust your instincts. Those little voices in the back of your mind that whisper something isn't right are usually correct. I'd noticed that Blake was more protective of his phone in recent months. I'd seen him texting late at night and quickly closing the conversation when I walked into the room. I'd heard him take calls in another room that he said were work stuff. None of these things were smoking guns, but together they painted a picture I chose not to see. Actions matter more than words. Blake told me he loved me every day. He said all the right things, made all the right promises. But his actions told a different story. He was building a life with someone else while planning a wedding with me. Words are easy. Consistent, honest actions are harder. You deserve transparency. In a healthy relationship, you shouldn't have to wonder where your partner is, who they're texting, or whether they're being honest with you. Secrecy breeds doubt, and doubt is poison to love. If someone truly loves you, they'll want you to feel secure in that love, not constantly questioning it. Don't ignore the behavior of their friends. Looking back, Trevor's speech was full of coded language that I missed at the time. His awkwardness, his careful word choices, his reluctance to meet my eyes. All signs that he was uncomfortable with what he knew. The people close to your partner know who they really are. Pay attention to how they act around you. You can't love someone into being faithful. I spent months after discovering the affair wondering what I'd done wrong, how I could have been a better girlfriend, what I lacked that made Blake seek affection elsewhere. The truth is, infidelity is about the cheater's character, not the victim's inadequacy. I could have been perfect in every way, and Blake still would have cheated because that's who he chose to be. Your response to betrayal defines your future. I could have stayed silent, gone through with the marriage, tried to work it out privately. Many people told me I should have. But I knew that if I accepted this betrayal, I was setting the standard for how I expected to be treated for the rest of my life. Sometimes you have to choose your self-respect over other people's comfort. It's okay to mourn what never really existed. The hardest part of healing wasn't getting over Blake. It was getting over the version of Blake I'd believed in. The relationship I thought we had. The future I'd planned. All of it was built on lies, but my feelings about it were real. It's okay to grieve something that was never actually real if it was real to you. The strangest thing about this whole experience is that it gave me something I never expected. Complete clarity about what I want in life. Before Blake, I was the kind of person who went along to get along. I avoided conflict, said yes when I meant no, molded myself to fit what other people expected. The woman who walked down the aisle that October day was someone who'd spent years becoming what she thought her partner wanted, rather than discovering what she actually needed. The woman who walked out of that reception is someone entirely different. I know now that I'd rather be alone than with someone who doesn't cherish me completely. I know that I'd rather have an uncomfortable truth than a comfortable lie. I know that my intuition is trustworthy, and I don't need anyone else's permission to act on it. I've started saying no to things I don't want to do. I've ended friendships that were one-sided. I've applied for a teaching position at a private school that pays more and has better benefits, even though it means leaving my comfort zone. Most importantly, I've learned that my happiness isn't dependent on being chosen by someone else. I'm enough exactly as I am, with or without a partner. Here's the part of the story that nobody expected, including me. Last month I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer it, but something made me pick up. Hello, is this Evangeline Carter? Yes, this is Evangeline. Hi, my name is Rebecca. I think we need to talk. About Blake Morrison. My blood went cold. Another woman. There was another woman. We met for coffee the next day, and Rebecca told me a story that made my wedding day look like a minor inconvenience. She'd been dating Blake for 8 months, starting 2 months before he'd even proposed to me. Unlike Amanda, Rebecca had no idea Blake was engaged, let alone married. He'd told her he was single, that he traveled for work frequently, which explained his absences, and that he was looking for something serious. I found out about you when the wedding video went viral, she said, tears in her eyes. I saw his face in the background of one of the clips, and I couldn't believe it. I thought there had to be some mistake. But there wasn't. Blake had been juggling 3 relationships simultaneously. His engagement to me, his affair with Amanda, and his relationship with Rebecca. 3 women who all thought they were the only one, all building futures around a man who was incapable of honesty with any of us. Rebecca had also discovered evidence of other women. Casual dates, hookups, an entire network of deception that went back years. Blake wasn't just a cheater. He was a serial manipulator who treated relationships like a game where the goal was to collect as many players as possible without any of them discovering the others. "I wanted to thank you," Rebecca said as we finished our coffee. "Seeing what you did at your wedding gave me the courage to confront him, to demand answers, to walk away." "What did he say when you confronted him?" "The same thing he probably said to you. That I was special, that he loved me, that he could explain everything. But I'd already seen enough. I'd already learned from your example that I deserved better than lies." Meeting Rebecca was both devastating and liberating. Devastating because it confirmed that my entire relationship with Blake had been built on even more deception than I'd realized. Liberating because it removed any lingering doubt that I'd made the right decision. It's been 4 months now since the wedding that changed everything. I'm writing this final section sitting in my new apartment. A bright, airy place with big windows and a view of the city skyline. I moved here last month, finally ready for a fresh start in a space that Blake has never seen. I got the job at the private school. I start in the fall, teaching 4th grade, with a salary increase and benefits that will let me travel during summer breaks. I've already booked a trip to Italy. Something I'd always wanted to do but never prioritized when I was planning a future with someone else. My family has stopped asking if I'm okay, and started asking about my plans, my dreams, my goals. The shift from treating me like a victim to treating me like a person with agency has been profound. I've been seeing someone new. His name is James, and he's a librarian at the public library downtown. We met when I was there checking out books for my classroom, and he helped me find resources for a unit on local history. He asked me for coffee and I said yes. James knows about Blake, about the wedding, about everything. I told him on our second date because I refuse to build any relationship on secrets or half-truths. His response was perfect. "Thank you for telling me. I can't imagine how difficult that was, but it helps me understand why honesty and transparency are so important to you. They're important to me too. We've been taking things slowly, very slowly, but it's the kind of slow that feels intentional rather than hesitant. We talk about everything. Our pasts, our values, our fears, our hopes. He's never once made me feel like I was asking for too much when I needed reassurance or had questions. I like how direct you are," he told me after I asked him point blank if he was dating anyone else. "It makes me feel secure. I always know where I stand with you." It's a novel concept. Someone who appreciates my honesty rather than feeling threatened by it. I'm not naive enough to think that this new relationship is guaranteed to work out. I'm not the same person I was before Blake, and I may never again love with the blind trust one once had. But I've learned that blind trust was never really love anyway. It was just wishful thinking disguised as devotion. Real love sees clearly and chooses to stay. Real love doesn't require you to ignore your instincts or compromise your standards. Real love doesn't ask you to be smaller or quieter or more convenient. Real love shows up, tells the truth, and treats you like you're precious. I'm still learning what that looks like, but I'm no longer willing to accept anything less. People often ask me if I regret how I handled things at the wedding. If I wish I'd been more private, more diplomatic, less public in my pain. The answer is no. I regret that I had to find out the way I did. I regret that Blake's deception robbed me of the wedding I dreamed of. I regret that 200 people had to witness my humiliation. But I don't regret my response to it. In that moment, faced with evidence of betrayal so complete it rewrote the history of our entire relationship, I had 2 choices. Pretend everything was fine to save face, or honor my own worth by refusing to accept the unacceptable. Chose my worth. And in doing so, I sent a message to every person in that room, to every woman who saw that viral video, to my future students who will someday face their own moments of truth. You don't have to smile and accept mistreatment. You don't have to prioritize other people's comfort over your own dignity. You don't have to stay in situations that diminish you just because leaving is difficult or embarrassing. You can walk away. You should walk away. And if walking away means burning down the elaborate facade someone else has built around their lies, then let it burn. My name is Evangeline Carter, and I survived my own wedding. More than that, I found myself in the ashes of what I thought was going to be my happily ever after. Some stories don't end with the girl getting the guy. Some stories end with the girl getting herself back. This is one of those stories. And honestly, I like this ending better than the one I originally planned. Because in the end, the most important relationship you'll ever have is the one you have with yourself. And I'd rather be authentically alone than falsely loved. That's a lesson worth learning, even if the tuition was the cost of a wedding and the price of a broken heart. But here's the thing about broken hearts. Sometimes they heal stronger in the broken places. Sometimes they learn to beat for themselves instead of waiting for someone else to give them rhythm. Mine certainly has. And that's the real happy ending. Thank you for watching. If you want more videos like this, please like, subscribe and share.